Meeting to order. I will ask Secretary West to do the roll call.
Chair Bell,
Present.
Regent Law, Regent Brinkley,
Present.
Regent Roddy,
Present.
Regent Jennison, Vice Chair Milliken,
Present.
Regent Nichols,
Present.
Regent Miller,
Present.
Regent Thomas,
Present.
Regent West, present, and Regent Warfel.
Present.
So, Mr. Chair, we have 10 regents present representing quorum of the board.
Good, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is approval of our minutes for the quarterly meeting on March 3rd. All had access very quickly. So I would entertain a motion. So moved. Motion by Regent Roddy. Second, Regent Thomas. Any discussion, corrections, deletions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passed. We'll move directly into the Academic Affairs Committee. I'll ask Regent Milliken to take that over.
Thank you, Chair Bale. We have 9 action items on the Academic Affairs Committee. I'd ask the provost, well, he already came around. Got there ahead of it. Action item number 1 is the approval of a graduate certificate in enterprise management through the Gordon Ford College of Business interdisciplinary program within the Gordon Ford College of Business.
So what I will just say is, we talked about them previously, but I want to talk a little bit about certificates, especially the ones in the Gordon Ford College of Business. Those are stackable, so they stand alone as well as are part of what would be the majors. So a person has an opportunity to take the certificate outside of the major, get interested and become part of the major and have it count. So it's the wave of the future in higher education as we speak, and that covers 3/4 of the list as we look.
Any other comments, questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to establish a graduate certificate in enterprise management with implementation in the fall of 2023. I have such a motion. Second. Motion by Thomas, second by Regent Nichols. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. The second action item is the approval of a graduate certificate in executive decision-making through the Gordon Ford College of Business interdisciplinary program within the Gordon Ford College of Business.
It applies to all, same things all apply to this one too.
Any questions or comments concerning this? If not, I'd entertain a motion to establish a graduate certificate in executive decision-making with implementation again in the fall of 2023. Motion by Van West. Did you get the second?
Listen.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Action item number 3 is the approval of an undergraduate certificate in sales through the Department of Marketing within the Gordon Ford College of Business.
And sales is one of the hottest areas as we speak now, and people are looking for the opportunity to get information or learn how sales, and this is also associated with being able to use for the degree.
Any questions or comments in regard to this action item? If not, I would request a motion to establish an undergraduate certificate in sales with implementation in the fall of 2023. Second. Motion by Brody. Shane. I'm sorry. I'm gonna let you take care of this, Beth. You're doing better than I am. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Action item number 4, approval of an undergraduate certificate in executive influence and organization through the Department of Management within the Gordon Ford College of Business.
It's a certificate that deals with what would be decision-making at all levels, and it is important related to management. And I think will be taken by other people within the Gordon Ford College of Business.
I would entertain then a motion to establish an undergraduate certificate in executive influence organizations with implementation in the fall of 2023.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign, motion carries. Item number 5, the approval of an undergraduate certificate in management inclusive organizations through the Department of Management within the Gordon Ford College of Business.
Again, it's a decision-making skills are associated with the certificate in integrating inclusivity in management for preparing you for your career. So incredibly important in this day and age.
Any further discussion, questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to establish an undergraduate certificate in managing inclusive organizations with implementation fall of 2023. Have a motion, second.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Action item number 6, the approval of an undergraduate certificate, creative and innovation management through the Department of Management, Gordon Ford College of Business.
It's associated with creativity and innovation in management and is there to provide students and other individuals who take this with opportunities to identify and do problem solving and critical thinking.
Have any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to establish an undergraduate certificate in creative and innovation management with implementation in the fall of 2023.
Second.
Do a motion second, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Action item number 7, the approval for academic program suspension for the following programs: folk studies, Master of Arts.
It was a program on the books. It's been here for a significant period of time, but we're at a point where the enrollment has been low. The faculty decided to close it. And one of the reasons they decided to close it is that there was a lack. They had lost 2 people, and at this point, there was no way to add 2 more people to that.
Do we have any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to suspend folk studies, Masters of Arts, with implementation in the spring 2023. Oh, have a motion and second.
Second.
Second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Action item number 8 is the approval for academic programs changing for the program Agriculture Bachelor of Science 605.
So this is one that we have all got calls on, wanting to know if we were getting rid of agriculture. We are not getting rid of agriculture. We are just cleaning up the books at this point. We have, for some unknown reason that I still can't figure out, we have 2 of the same, I'll take that back, 2 of very closely the same ag degrees. The only difference is one expects there to be a minor and the other one does not. It will affect nobody. They will still be able to take the minor. We're just going to move them all into one ag instead of these 2 ag programs.
We've discussed this previously. Any other questions or comments concerning this? If not, I'd like to receive a motion to suspend in agriculture the Bachelor of Science 605 to be implemented in the fall of 2023.
So moved.
Have a motion, second.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Action item number 9 is an approval of merit status. Would you address that for us, please?
I will. Dr. Packwood could not be here today. Just to remind you, he joined WKU as assistant professor in 2004 and retired in December of 2022. While he was here, he made huge efforts in bringing cross-cultural awareness to the WK students, faculty, and staff, both through his teaching, both through his study abroad, as well as some certificates that he earned from areas. In addition, he was awarded the Joseph P. Craig Kangem Award for Excellence in Leadership in Psychology Education and was nominated for the College of Education and Behavioral Sciences Faculty Excellence in Teaching Award in 2008, 11, and 17. Well deserved.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would like a motion for approval of a merit status to be awarded to Dr. Anthony Packwood. So,
Second.
motion by Regents. Okay, you all got those two. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Before we leave this, I want to take the opportunity just to ask Bud's opinion. I know when I first came on the board 10 years ago, it's really rare to have a super program. And with the renewed interest or whatever, and certificates, badges, micro credentials, is this something that we're likely to see more of?
So we were talking yesterday, Deans and I, it's a great question, and I think so. I mean, we were talking, what seems to have been lost in this whole conversation are minors. Minors aren't what people are looking for anymore. What they're looking for is certificates, but they're really looking for certificates that are stackable. They want to have that opportunity to have lots of on-ramps and off-ramps that get you associated with degrees or associated with institutions, so that at some point they can make the leap to get a degree. And that's really what we will see. And at the other end of the spectrum is badges. We've talked about badges. Gordon Ford does some badges, but we have talked about expanding it to students as well as to the public. So we are headed in that direction. And I think it's the wave of the future. So I think we have to continue to move in that direction. And that was our conversation with the deans yesterday.
It would seem to me that it would be really important for us to be able to demonstrate competencies on whatever these things are, because that's really what employers are going to be looking for, I guess.
And what they're willing to send their people back to universities to do.
And it's interesting when you think about curricular reform. We used to think about a long time ago, it used to be 130, 140 hours. We got that down to 120. But now the conversation is around how to modularize that in such a way that you can break it up into 15 or 30 credit hour chunks, for lack of a better word, that stack. And that stack in such a way that you're not locked in to a particular major at the beginning, right? So you can do the first 30 hours, you can bring the first 30 hours with you. If you stack on top of that, you can shift from this degree to this degree. It's harder as you get over 60 hours or 90 hours, get kind of locked in. But then you think about graduate school as well. For when I went through, it was a 36-hour program. Now you could do 12 here, 12 here, 12 here. And when you put it all together, it builds into a master's degree. So you don't have to do it all at once. There is a credential that comes at the end of each one of those. And so when you finish, you have 3 credentials and a master's degree. And even more flexible, you might be able to do 1 credential online completely, do 1 credential for the course of a year in person, might be able to do 1 credential over several months during the summer. And so you think about how our education classes work, how our graduate courses in business work. It's all pressing toward flexibility, stackability, and modularization.
Right.
Yeah, I think we're headed that way. I don't think the future institutions will be around if they can't figure out.
It's a matter of, people don't have, they want it, want information that I can use, but I don't have it done. So you gonna tell me I can get a master's 2 years from now? I'm not gonna talk to you. You told me I can get a certificate in 3 months, 6 months? Okay, now I'm willing to talk to you because you give me something that I can use that gives me a credential at the end of it. But it is a time management issue that we're gonna have to deal with. And as Dr. Boney said, the flexibility of how do you want it? You wanna do it online? You wanna come into class? You wanna do a hybrid? All of those things are gonna be critical to the future learning.
Very good. And we have an information item.
We do. I would love to ask Dr. Jason Crandall and Dr. Mark Schaefer to come up and get them ready. Dr. Crandall and Dr. Schaefer are both in the School of Kinesiology, Recreation and Sport. They're here today to talk to you about how they have created a business, which is great. And it's bingo size, impactful applied research and engaging communities and students. And I'd love for them to go forward.
And I'll add one thing, and some of you may have heard or learned about bingo size during the past decade or so. But I think what is important to me in this is, number one, the connection to the innovation campus, but number two, COVID was not good for anyone except maybe bingo size. And so they've emerged on the other. But they emerged on the other side of what was a tremendous challenge, but had a solution to that challenge. And so I think it's a great story.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. I'm going to try to condense 12 years of work in about 15 minutes. I'll do my best. I think the biggest thing I'd like you to take away today is really this symbiotic relationship between engaging the community, applied research, and then innovation and commercialization that can come from that. And it's a cycle that continues to feed itself. Whoops. So it all started 12 years ago as a simple service learning project for some students. I wanted them to get them out in the community doing some things with older adults. And I told them to create an exercise program that failed miserably. And it was because everyone was down the hall playing bingo. So it hit me right then and there, bingo size, let's see how that works. The next week we had 15 people show up. So we collected some data on that particular project. And as time went by, I continued to use that service learning model when I came here to WKU. And so since then, 2013, over 600 WKU students have participated in this service learning activity. So they go out into the community and they actually do bingo size for all of these different types of places. The students have done a lot of good. They're getting a lot of great experience doing the program, because we know older adult care is a real issue right now. And so we need to be training and preparing our students to go out and work with that population. So that brings us to the applied research part. So obviously I was collecting data while we were doing these particular projects. And all along the way, we needed an entity to kind of house our research. And so that's exactly what we did. I'm going to let Dr. Schaefer talk a little bit about Passion.
Thank you. My name is Mark Schaefer. I'm pleasure to have the opportunity to be the research fellow for Cassia. Cassia was developed and co-founded by Dr. Crandall and Dr. Shake. And where I come in is the dream is this data set. There is a lot of data of programs implemented around and throughout the world that I can continue to process to bolster the research arm of bingo size. Currently speaking, we're working on some data from Virginia, specifically of program implementation. And the results are extremely favorable. And statistics and all the things that we enjoy looking at is part of building that research arm of bingo size. And what's interesting about it is how multidisciplinary it is. We're working with students and faculty across the university. We got psychological sciences, physical therapy, speech language pathology, public health. All of our students and the faculty throughout the university get to be involved in this as well, because there's different components, as Dr. Crandall will continue to elucidate about the program, that bring in interventions for older population. The older population to be able to have fall risk interventions and health and well-being. So the research side of it will hopefully continue to bolster about what I'm going to hand this right back over to Dr. Graham for is the next stage of grants and funding to continue to perpetuate the program. There's our timer right there. Yeah.
So from this research, we've been able to be very successful securing external funding for research and programmatic activities. So all of these different funding agencies, including the NIH, have funded this. And the great thing about that research is it's all applied research with students. So you can see there's a lot of students that have gone on trips across Tennessee, Kentucky, other places. We all had a great time. Dr. Shake has been my colleague and partner from the very beginning. Fantastic researcher, and I really appreciate all his help. So that's a great part of it. And of course, we get the publications. This is where the evidence base comes from. And that's critical to continue, as Dr. Schaefer mentioned, continuing to get that data, continuing to publish things to show that the present program works. This is critical. This is a critical endorsement from the United States government. It's called the Administration for Community Living, which means that these organizations can use government funding to purchase bingo size. We also have approval from USDA as an obesity prevention program. Again, more funding can come in that way. And so from all of that research, all of those approvals, that's where the commercialization piece came in. And so since that happened, since those approvals happened, we've really grown the program. So now we have multiple workshops. We focus on fall prevention education. We focus on nutrition education. We even have current funding from the Center for Disease Control to create a COVID-19 vaccine education workshop. So we're currently implementing that across Kentucky right now. We even have it in different languages. We have a lot of folks out in California, so we have to have Spanish, and we even have Polish, which I know is kind of random, but we have it in Polish because they love bingo size in Poland. So I think one of the really major things about bingo size, we can implement it across what I call the spectrum of care. So all the way from senior centers, all the way down to the nursing homes. We've implemented bingo size for over 8,900 residents in nursing homes, mostly across the South, but we continue to move west as well. So we even have items that we sell. So they all have bingo size themes on them, right? And so these are actually, we call them curriculum reinforcements. So these go along with the program. So we're trying to reinforce the nutrition information. We're trying to reinforce fall prevention education. So we've got things like my favorite, like toilet bowl lights, are the most popular item. So we sell a lot of those. And so now we are in 47 states, soon to be 48. We're even in Alaska. We have a lot of customers in Alaska. We love bingo size in Alaska. So we're a lot across the United States. We have a nationwide bingo size facilitator network, and we're in other parts of the world. These are occupational therapy students in the Philippines. I don't know how they found out about bingo size, but they did. This is in the UK. This is in England. And this is pictures from Poland. So these are some Polish older adults actually doing bingo size. I've been invited a couple of times as a visiting lecturer to Poland. So this is the class that I was lecturing to. It's a group of physiotherapy students. They call it physiotherapy in Europe. And this is an actual nursing home that I visited to talk about bingo size in Poland. So it all has kind of come full circle, right? So we've got this innovation, we've got commercialization. Now we're taking a giant step forward with the help of the Innovation Campus to actually create a for-profit company. So that company will actually be owned 100% by the WKU Research Foundation, and I will be the CEO. And so we're hoping that next step will really grow be able to grow the program even more than it is, and to really help to spur economic development here in Bowling Green and other places as well. So we're right back to that community engagement piece. So I want to show this as an example of what bingo size could do. This is actually a video created by a group of older adults in New York, I believe. And I'm having a contest, nationwide contest for the best bingo size video, right? So the winner gets bingo size merchandise. So this is one of the best entries that I've seen so far. So here we go.
Bingo size has helped me feel great. Bingo size has helped me feel healthy.
Bingo sizes help me be aware.
Cards down, and we're gonna get ready to do our rolling disco, and we're gonna dance to stay alive.
Bingo size helped me to be strong. Bingo size has helped me feel healthy. Bingo size has helped me stay alive.
Bingo size has helped me feel fully alive.
Bingo sizes help us feel
So I definitely think that kind of summarizes the impact that bingo size has had across the country. And I want to reiterate how much benefit I think it's had for our students as well. Many of them come back to me and say, that experience was really something that I learned from, and it really made me appreciate working with older adults. And so thank you. Oops. Thank you very much again for allowing us to be here. I have a lot of people to thank, even all the way back from my undergraduate days here, way back in the early 90s. To everybody here, Dr. Dean Boston, I really appreciate all of your support. I appreciate all the support you guys are giving Bingo Size. The innovation canvas is amazing. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about the opportunity. So thank you. Thank you once again.
One of the first things I remember about in 2017, when I first enrolled, the first research groups that I met with, and I remember looking at these big plastic tubs in your offices of stuff and thinking, you're not going to grow that into business. And so the relocation of the innovation campus, the partnership with the folks over there, and the ability to bring that to scale, I think is a tremendous, tremendous exciting thing. So you see another faculty member who had an idea, who's done real research, who has value that is not just research value, but monetary value in a company. And so we have another faculty member / CEO in the making. So it's really exciting.
As someone who takes care of people in long-term care facilities, that data on falls, if you can produce data to produce falls, that's huge.
I wasn't allowed to talk about the statistics for this, but our most recent study is there is a fall reduction, fear of falling, and then there's a reduction of fall interference and how that might interfere with their life. And this is after a 10-week implementation, 45 minutes twice a week. And this is throughout three years of data collection across the state of Virginia. So I thought that was a perfect time to
You
bring
did
this.
say toilet bowl light.
I did. I have one just because it's.
Fascinating, and I can see how that might help reduce falls.
It's very helpful. You put it on the rim and then it walk in, it's motion sensor. So it lights up the water. So you don't. It's genius.
Do we have any other questions?
It's good stuff.
Well, thank you, Dr. Crandall and Dr. Schaefer. We certainly appreciate your presentation. Very informative. Appreciate your being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chair Bale, I think that concludes the business of the academic affairs.
Finance and budget will have a hard time topping.
That's what I was saying.
It's important.
Not nearly as exciting.
There with, if you take over the finance.
We had our first action item is the statement of revenues and expenditures for the period ending or for March 31st.
So, Jeff, do you mind bringing up the slide deck?
So anyway, as far as that report, there's been no changes since the April meeting. It was a good third quarter report, so no changes on that, so it's really.
Any questions or discussion on this? And I'll look for a motion to accept the final statement of revenues and expenditures for 9 months ended March 31st, 2023 and 2022.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next item that we have is action item 2, and that is personnel actions.
So there were no comments or questions in the April meeting. The only thing that I'll remind the board is that that report only went through February. The March changes will be on the fourth quarter statement.
Okay, do we have any questions for Susan on this? Comments? Then I'll look for a motion to approve the faculty and staff personnel actions.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Stephen West, if I may, just a brief reminder to the board that this vote that you just took granted tenure to 27 faculty members. You'll recall, I said we were going to celebrate that and call it out. I just wanted to highlight that for you all. An important decision in the lives of those faculty and the life of the institution. At the retreat in August, we'll bring information to you about who these folks are and their academic record. And then in August, all of them will get invited over to the president's home, partner, spouse, a guest, and we'll celebrate them at the outset of the fall semester. But I just wanted to make sure we paused and were mindful of the decision that we just made. Thank you.
We move on now to action item number 3, which is a resolution for the authorization, issuance and sale of general receipts refund obligations.
So this was the 2 action items relating to bond refinancing that we wanted some additional language put into the actual resolution. So just as a reminder, over on the left side, that's what you saw at the April meeting. We've since worked with our financial advisor and legal to add these specific languages to the actual resolution, which Curry, I know that some of this was your concern, and I think these will cover anything that just actually insert the language in the act. So it says that the resolution shall remain effective for a 1-year period beginning the date of the approved resolution. So should it be approved today, it would start today for a year. Any refunding, this is really important, must produce a net present value savings of a minimum of 5%. And then if the obligations are not issued by the university within that 1 year of the date of adoption of the resolution, the obligation must be reauthorized by the board.
Susan, was this for also action item number 4 as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we want to vote on both of these together. We can do that. All right, action item number 4, just as a reminder, was basically the same resolution, but it was a different series of bonds. It was 2023B, and action item 3 was 2023A. Okay. So do I have a motion to approve or accept the resolution providing for the authorization and issuance and sale of general receipts, refunding obligations in an aggregate principal amount of $22,900,000 for action item 3, and then in the amount of approximately $19,500,000 for action item number 4.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Okay, both motions pass. And now we move on to action item number 5. This is a request for approval for the initiation of various capital projects to preserve, modernize, maintain the facilities listed.
And Brian Russell went through that at the April meeting. It's not changed since it was reviewed in April. So I'll take any questions. Or Brian is here certainly to answer any.
Any questions for Susan or Brian? Anybody have any comments? Hearing none, then I will ask for a motion to approve the initiation of the various capital projects.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Now, we are going to pull action item number 6 for, I think, is President Cavoni, are you going to discuss the change?
Yeah, I would like the board to consider a revision to FB 6. A small edit, but an important. As you go through the legislative process, ensuring that your requests are not out of line with peer or other institutions is important. I got the sense in a set of recent conversations yesterday that we had an opportunity to think a little bit differently about the academic complex project. And so what I would like for the board to consider, take a look at that building right over there. Putting $90 million into it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense if we were able to get a replacement for the building. And so as we go through that process, I would like you all please to consider changing renovate to replace academic complex. The amount in the from 90 to $160 million, and the general fund amount changes also to $160 million. I think that if you have an opportunity to do this kind of project, you take it, and I think you may have a shot. Surprise, kind of.
Or anything else?
There has to be a motion for the amendment. Yeah, part.
It's supposed to the whole thing before. Yeah. Make a motion for the accept the amendment. Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? So now we have accepted the amendment as proposed by President Cavoni. And so now I need a motion to approve FB 6, the 6-year capital.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed? The motion passes. And I think that is all of our action items, but we do have an information item on the budget.
I don't know why I always have to follow things like bingo size and student. Anyway, that's the way it is. So first off, I want to say we're close to being completed with the budget. There's still a few little fine tuning of items to do, but I really wanted to thank the provost and the deans, their budget managers, and all the folks at the university. Everybody's worked really hard to. This is the second year of really having ramp in place, and I think it's going well. Our Axiom, our budgeting tool, is maturing. Everybody's feeling more comfortable with it. I also want to say thank you to Brian Denning, our budget director, and Ronaldo, who is on vacation this week, for their leadership and guidance on this, because I couldn't do this on my own. So thank you, Brian. And So we'll keep this as informal as you like, and keep it at a high level at the same time. But feel free to stop me if you have any questions as we move through this. So first, let me see if you get a chance to go to the top of the hill, you'll see doesn't quite look like this yet, but it's going to be there after we get some trees in place and some flowers. And thank you to Brian Russell and his team for a lot of last minute work they did on that. So that's our cover for this budget go around. So I'll just go through a quick executive summary and then move into some revenue highlights, expenditure highlights, and then some of the final steps we have before you make your final approval at the June board. So these are our high level budget priorities for fiscal year 24. As always, keeping college affordable for our students, keeping our eye on that first and foremost. Commitment to faculty and staff compensation by putting in place a salary increase pool. A strategic initiative fund that will allow leadership, primarily the president and provost, to fund strategic priorities across campus, primarily on the academic side of the university. An example of this is funding underrepresented minority hires for the university. And then, as we did, I know we're all anxious for inflation to get back under control, but we are going to continue monthly monitoring of inflationary costs across the university. So this is what the budget summary looked like for fiscal year 24. Again, I don't expect the numbers to change much between now and June, but they could change slightly. So our budget for fiscal year 24 is approaching $390 million. And that's about a $6.5 million increase over the prior year, or 2%. And a reminder to the board of the budget governance structure that we've had in place to move to the grant model. So you'll see that the BEC is in the kind of the middle of all of the input into the budget cycle, and that's a very broad representation of campus on the BEC. All the deans are on there, the vice presidents are on there, faculty, staff, and students. And so input into the BEC would be through the staff senate, the faculty senate, the CAC, which is our capital allocation committee, the support unit leadership, which is our vice presidents, and the SGA. And then once the BEC takes all the input from those groups, they make recommendations up to campus leadership. So these were the recommendations that came out of campus leadership that comes to you as our board, as overall recommendations for this budget. So number one, as we did in the current fiscal year, just the continuation of monitoring fixed cost increases from inflation and using one-time funds to cover those overages. A 2% salary pool that will be distributed January of 24. And the decision on how that pool will be distributed has not been made yet. The BEC will work on that over the summer and then make a recommendation to leadership. So I would expect that to be somewhere in the September-October timeframe. And that strategic initiative fund that I talked about, consideration to using some of those funds towards funding some of the high priority items that came out of the BEC recommendation. So any questions or comments on the executive summary at this point? Okay. On the revenue, you can see we are a tuition dependent school that makes up approximately 48% of our budget on the revenue side, followed by state appropriation. And then you'll see the other sources funds, restricted funds. Just a reminder, that's pretty much our grants and contracts and federal and state financial aid. A graph I added, which I think is really interesting, and I talk about over the years. So you'll see back in the year 2000, We were a state-supported institution through appropriation. And over the years, that's almost completely flip-flopped from where back in 2021, state appropriation was 41%, tuition was 25%. Now, tuition is 46% and appropriation is 21%. So going back to us being a tuition dependent school, these numbers are critical to how we budget on the revenue side. So we budget based on FTE, that's full-time equivalent, not head count, because head count includes every type of student. It would be counting me if I went and took a course on campus. It would count our dual credit students who do not pay full tuition. So we budget on FTE, and the FTE that we're projecting for the 24 year is 13,000, approximately 500. But as far as head count, we are a campus approaching 17,000. The first year students that we're using for our freshman class for 24 is 2832, which is an increase over the current year. This year, our freshman class was around 2750, and I'll ask Ethan to keep me honest. And we're also requesting the board to approve a 3% tuition increase. And the CPE set our tuition increase cap at 5% over a 2-year period, not to exceed 3% in either of the 2 years. This is what our state appropriation looks like at this moment in time. CPE will not approve the actual performance funding allocation until probably mid to late June. So we're going to build this budget based on an estimate, a preliminary estimate from the CPE. So we are scheduled to receive about 5.9 million from our performance funding pool for this year. And just another item as a reminder, our KERS subsidy of 3.2 million is going to be reduced 10% a year for probably 5 to 10 years. But we have a reserve in place in our budget that backfills that reduction.
As an aside, on performance funding, the performance funding work for meetings in January. Formula, the way it works, and so we'll have some tweaks and some shifts. That number will fluctuate over time, which makes it difficult to use performance funding dollars for recurring expenses. So we are having a conversation around how it is you might solidify some of those to base, but that's a much longer conversation to have. We need at least for the next 6 to 8 months to get that done this summer.
Another positive note on the revenue side, we took the short-term investment policy. I think we brought that to the board several months ago. We've got that in place. And because we have that short-term policy, investment policy now in place, we're able to budget an additional $3 million in this budget. So that is great news for campus and for our budget. So before I move to expenditures, any questions or comments on the revenue?
Go through that short-term investment policy again.
I'm sorry, what?
Go through that $3 million short-term investment policy change that you did.
So the university had never had a short-term investment policy in place. For the most part, most of the investments were really not strategic, and not trying to be critical of prior folks here, but there were a lot of investing into CDs, which I think we know really does not produce a whole lot of interest. And we have so much cash that this just puts our cash to work. Rather than having it sitting on the sidelines, you actually put your cash to work. And as I say in that second bullet, it protects the principal, it provides liquidity, and it provides investment earnings. We're monitoring this all the time with our financial advisors, and we have a plan in place of how much we invest, making sure we have enough to pay our bills, but we're investing the appropriate amount to produce these earnings.
But seems to me to be an internal performance money that things you the staff.
So on the expenditure side, this is what the budget on the expenditure side looks like. So as I focus on tuition on the revenue side, we have to focus on our faculty and staff salaries on the expenditure side. We are a people institution, not unlike all institutions across the country. Most of the expenditure budget is made up of faculty and staff. So you'll see that makes up about 48% of the budget. Student financial aid of about 114 million. Now, remember that includes not only institutional aid, but also your federal and state aid. Operating of about 40 million, maintenance 17 million, debt service 17, utilities about 10 million to run this campus, and travel of about 7.2. So you'll see the personnel budget, the change for faculty and staff is primarily that 2% salary pool that we put into place. So the decline in the student and graduate assistants, I want to make sure that everyone's clear. This isn't like we're actually hiring less students or less graduate assistants. It simply means that the deans are now, with the Axiom budgeting tool, they're actually able to see their budget better. And so what their budget managers and the deans are actually budgeting closer to actual. So that's all that change is. And you'll see these are the current fringe benefit rates. The big one there that really pops up the chart is the KERS contribution of 85%. That's just really incredible. The good news is that new employees coming in under the KERS goes back to more of a normal level of around 10%. Health insurance, that again is the current contribution annually. Those decisions on what that's going to look like for the next calendar year will be made probably in the fall. Financial aid. This, if you remember back, probably my first budget, probably about 4 years ago, we implemented the new financial aid model. So this is the 4th year of that. So that means the freshmen that receive that scholarship, they have now worked through the pipeline. So, and this is the 3rd year for the WKU Family Hilltop Guarantee and Border State Scholarship. Overall, there was a $5 million increase in the budget for financial aid. But because we've got all classes now moved through the new financial aid model, we will not see these significant increases again. But I will let Dr. Caboni or Ethan speak to the financial aid here.
Yeah, so as we approach the 4th and final year of the cycle, committed to take a critical look at what we accomplished. And I'm pleased that we had growth last year, growth again in the first year class projected for this year. It's a conservative estimate. We would not have those numbers without the decisions that we made. But looking at tweaks to the model that might increase net tuition revenue for the past 5 weeks, the deans, the provost, the EVP, along with all of the admission staff have really dug into both goal setting around that first year number and where we'd like to be. We all would like to be closer to 3,000. We're at 3,000 than 2,850 or 2,900. But to get the other part of that conversation is what's our visit structure? What's the financial aid model? We tweak that. How do we address not just high achieving students and needy students, but perhaps students in the middle to increase revenue and yield there? We've had 5 terrific sessions in a row. We're going to spend the next 6 to 8 weeks working on a detailed revision to that and 3 to 2 really to do the deep dive and then make any adjustments we need to make. But again, all with an eye toward net tuition revenue, the appropriate size, not just of the first year class, but the entire institution. Again, as we're moving back up toward 17,000, 18,000. Then also the conversation around how do you continue to shape that class toward an 80% retention rate. and an ever increasing first year entry GPA this year, highest in our history, over 3.6. So all those things to come.
And operating expenses, most of the overall decline of about 1.5 million is directly related to the debt service payments going down. The shift that you see, operating expenses going down, most of that went into the travel category. Not that we're traveling more on campus, I would say we're probably traveling less. But because the deans and vice presidents can more clearly see their budget through the budgeting tool, that they align their budget closer to action. So just quickly, the next steps. So again, as I talked about, the final performance funding distribution will be made in probably mid-June. And so if it changes a lot from what we have budgeted, we'll need to make a budget adjustment after the first of the year. Fine tuning the budget details, as I talked about, I don't expect a lot, but we do have just some final things to do. This will come to the Regents at the special call meeting in June for your final approval. This then goes to the CPE. Once you approve the tuition rates that we set, those go to the CPE for final approval at their meeting in June. And then we will load the Axiom budget data into our Banner general ledger to start the new year. That's all I have for today. Last time, happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Susan. Includes the business of the time.
Thank you, Chair West. And before we take a short break, I'm going to take this time to do some recognition. This is the end of a academic year that you can all be very pleased and happy with, I think, but it's also the end of a couple of our Regents' tenure on the board. And we have mementos for each of them. Cole has served ably in his year as a student regent, and certainly an important part of any board in higher education is to have that student voice. He's been that for us this year, and followed a string of able regents. We have our incoming regent, student regent here as well. And Cole, I may ask you to introduce him. And then I'll talk about George. So,
thank you all for your support here for sure. It's been a great opportunity. Thank you for everything. This is Sam Kurtz. He's coming in as a junior this next year. He actually served as my vice president next year. So I know he will do a fantastic job.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Sam Kurtz. I'm a sophomore here on the Hill. I'm from Bowling Green, so I've always been around Western since I've been a little kid. My parents are season ticket holders, so I've always loved the Tops. But I'm very excited to serve, and I'm very excited to work with all of you. And shout out Cole, it's a great job. So thank you.
all right. Thanks for being here today, Sam. And Cole, thank you for last year of your work. And we'll distribute the gifts in a second. Our next regent has been on here a bit longer, the last 6 years. And if all of us can only be so lucky to have just a handful of people in your lives that demonstrate and give you inspiration in whatever you're doing, you're lucky. And I think many of us would agree George is that kind of person. He's been a strong regent, whether he was on Zoom or here in person as he is today. Every board needs someone who can bring not only some gravitas, which certainly George you have done, But George has brought range to our board. And anyone that heard both George and his wife speak at the scholarship banquet understands the depth of experience and the numerous roles that he's filled throughout his life, which have brought richness to his service as a board member. Not to mention the things that he and CJ have supported and created here on our campus. He is truly an exceptional person and Regent, and we are going to miss this guy tremendously. So with that, we have a couple of mementos for both of you, which and out.
Regent Bale, I'll add to your comments. So Cole, thank you for staying focused on improving the lives of our students and keeping SGA focused. I think you all had some tremendous successes this year, creative ideas that you've implemented to help our students. And I'm proud of the work that you all have done. And Sam, welcome. We already know each other because we worked together for this year. Looking forward to continuing that next year. George, George was my first new regent when I became president. You never forget your first new regent. And so I'm thankful for everything that I've learned from you. And more importantly, for how you challenged me and pushed me and made me think about how to lead as a president. And I'm better and the university is better and we're on more solid footing because of not just your service on the board, but your mentorship with me in some ways. So I'm thankful for that. Thankful for your friendship. I'm thankful for CJ's friendship. And even though you're rolling off of the board, you can't get away from it. So we're going to have you back as much as we can. And I'll continue to bounce ideas on you. Thank you for everything.
Before we let you say, anyone else that wants?
No, don't, please.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give you the last.
I actually can't believe it's been 6 years. And I remember my first meeting. That's the first, and Tim had just started. And I want to pause here because I got to go back at you. I've been president of a college for 4 years, and I have shadowed Tim to be better at my job at what I do, even though the colleges and the university are totally different. Your leadership here, the impact you've had has been phenomenal. And as I've talked to people in regulators, accrediting bodies and others, I actually been able to say I'm on the Board of Regents at Western Kentucky University has been a benefit. And then when I talk to them about who I follow in terms of my leadership, so I want to recognize you for that. You know, you all know this is special to me. It's my hometown. This is where I met my wife, and was my soulmate. And it's funny that we purchased a little space outside of the chapel. So this would be my final resting place. But I have to admit that it may only be my resting place. CJ said that she refused to be burned when she dies, so that if I die first, I will be the only one there. And so that's what you want to know, that it may not be the whole family there. It's just, it could be just a lock of hair. That's it. I'm asking. But I tell you, and then obviously our involvement with ISEC, but I hope you know what you're a part of. What we heard about how education is changing, how the university is. I'm in this business, and I will tell you, there are very few places that are as positioned well as we are at Western Kentucky University because of what's happened over the last 6 years. Thinking about it, bringing in the right people, bringing in the talent, having a great governance structure and fiduciary board to help and challenge the president. I sit back and I know there's big red and big blue somewhere out in the state of Kentucky, but I'll tell you, this is really the place that I think is most unique because of the fact that we're not the state school that everybody talks about, but just as impactful as them. And that actually helps you in some ways. It's also a disadvantage, but this is, and then when I look at the retention numbers, you should write a book about what this university's done on retention. What everybody's looking at. When you look at enrollment's down across the country, but not here. And it's been an honor for me to serve. I'll always be part of the family. I'll always be here. You'll probably get tired of seeing me, but I'm going to be here always because we love West Virginia. And I have, again, am honored and humbled at the opportunity to be a regent at my hometown university. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. With that, we're gonna take a short break and distribute these gifts. Be back in 10.
All right. Well, you.
We will resume our agenda and move into the Student Affairs Committee and Doris.
Thank you, Dr. Chair Bell. We have one information item under student affairs.
Thank you, Chair Thomas. Thank you, Regents. Thank you, Dr. Cabot. We have an information item today regarding the top program, Topper Orientation Program. New student orientation for students coming to the Hill in the fall. As we conclude the spring semester, the enrollment management cycle of recruitment and cultivation crunches forward, and we're going to keep going into the summer with our new student orientation program. I'm going to ask Scott McDonald, our Assistant Vice President for Enrollment Management, to introduce this group. But what is unique about our top program is it is staffed predominantly by our students and run by our students. We have Owen Posey from admissions, who's providing their management oversight. But these two students that are going to be presented today are running top orientation program for our new students. These candidly are two of my favorite students that I know here on the Hill. And so I'm really glad to have them here presenting. So, Scott, if you would.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. As Dr. said, I'll share a little bit about the top program, which is our primary orientation for our first time freshmen when they come to campus and but also to start getting connected with fellow Hilltoppers and students. And these are two of our leaders, and they're going to just kind of walk you through the program and share a little bit about their experiences. Top guy has been to them, so
Thank you for having us. I understand it's a very busy day on campus. I will be working commencement later, so definitely means a lot that not only do you all meet to kind of get things started for next year in the summer, but also to take some time to listen to student-run organizations, because I know that you all speak for the university, and so it's really a testament to the way that you all uplift our voices that you allow us to come and talk to you today. So we'll just do some brief introductions before we get started. My name is Sabri Norris. I am a junior here on the Hill. This is my last day that I can say that, a rising senior, and I am involved in different facets of campus that have really just allowed me to find opportunities to serve our surrounding campus and community, and especially those incoming students who want to share their time here on the Hill with me. So I have the opportunity to serve as the lead of TOP. So Aiden and I are up here. We are the leaders of the Topper Orientation Program. We'll talk about the nitty gritty of that as we go in throughout this presentation, but the opportunity to serve student leaders who are then going to serve our has definitely meant a lot to me, and that transition was made easier by TOP. So the opportunity for me to then serve in aiding people's transition as they come to WKU has been very special in my time thus far. I also have the opportunity to serve as the chair of Spirit Masters here on campus. So to see so many familiar faces in here that make me more comfortable and excited, that has definitely meant a lot to me. And I think it's a testament to the relationships that we get to build here on the Hill. And then I also have some involvement with the Honors College and Greek life here on campus. So just other tethers that I've been able to find here at WKU to make this place feel more like home.
Hi guys, my name is Aiden Canizales. I'm a junior here on the Hill studying biology with a psych minor. I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee, so Bowling Green is pretty close to home. I always like to say it's a hop, skip it away, but also enough far away to get away from my parents, but close enough to come home if I need to. I'm involved here on campus as well. As David said, I serve as co-lead or just lead for our Topper Orientation Program. So it's been really nice. It's actually one of the first organizations that I joined here on campus. So being able to see it grow and also seeing myself grow within it has been great. It's a phenomenal opportunity. I'm part of Greek life here on campus. I'm also an admissions ambassador, so I do the tours here at school. So that's also been a pretty great program to be a part of. And then I'm also part of our Student Government Association, so I get to work alongside Cole, Sam, Preston over there. So we'll go ahead and get started.
So to begin, we really wanted to break down what exactly the Topper Orientation Program entails, what we stand for, and what we do for every single incoming student that's going to attend WKU. So it is a mandatory orientation program for all of our students, but I like to kind of flip that language around from mandatory to it being an opportunity for a registered student organization to touch the lives sincerely of every single student that comes to campus. So throughout the tours that we give and the other opportunities that we have to get involved and serve the community, there are very few opportunities where us as students have the chance to meet and have a genuine interaction with every single student that will step foot here on this campus. And so I think that also is a testament to just what we strive to kind of build in regards to the spirit that we share amongst this community. So we get to ease the mind of students as they go through this transition. We get to help them get oriented before they start classes in the fall. And so that's definitely meant a lot to us in that regard. We are overseen by the Office of Admissions. So to have Owen Posey as kind of our director and leader up top, when he served as a top guide when he was here, and how I know he's gotten to watch this grow and then serve as a mentor to us, has meant a lot to us. So we work directly with the Office of Admissions. A lot of top guides are also tour guides. We found that these roles really enhance each other. And so having the opportunity to meet students and introduce them to campus for their first time, and then continue to serve as a familiar face for them when they come to orientation and when they are on the Hill, I think also really eases the mind and it excites students when they come to WKU. And then, as we touched on previously, we are facilitated by top guides. We have some numbers that we'll share with you in a little bit, but we are essentially entirely run. While we do have some wonderful mentors that do pour into us and make sure that these things go smoothly, this is facilitated by almost 50 top guides who are students that strive to serve as kind of the hands and feet of the university that day. We understand that when students come to orientation, we are WKU to them. So we are one of those first interactions that they have. We take that very seriously, but it's also really exciting that we get to do that all summer.
So with the Topper Orientation Program, a big thing that comes about it is obviously that we are student ran, as Sabrina said. So we kind of just want to touch a little bit about our experience with the orientation program, kind of why we got into it, how it's treating us, and what we want to do with it. So first off, I came here as a student. I knew absolutely no one coming to Western Kentucky. All I knew was myself. Came from a small town outside of Nashville, even though I do say I'm from Nashville. But again, knew absolutely no one. My first year spent here on the Hill, I wasn't as involved as I wanted to be. And then after about a year or so, entering my sophomore year, I had a friend who was part of the Topper Orientation Program. She reached out to me, let me know that there's an opportunity for me to apply. I went through the application process, and it was the first thing I joined here on campus. I always like to tell students that was kind of a little bit of my snowball effect that led me into absolutely everything else that I'm on here on campus. And again, like I mentioned earlier, it's something that I've seen grow since I first started, and something that I've seen myself grow with it. If you told me about 2 years ago that I would be standing in front of all these people and talking about a program, I wouldn't have believed you. I thought I was just going to come here, learn about biology, graduate. But I'm so grateful for the opportunities that this program has given me, for the people I've met through this program, for the friends I've gained, for the mentors I've had. So it's something that I will always hold dear and near to my heart. But
for me, we find that when students tour WKU, that's one of the pivotal moments that they decide that they want to attend here. And so my involvement, inspiration for TOP was my orientation program. So even though mine and Aiden's looked a little bit different than it does now because ours were online, the engagement that I felt even through the computer, I thought spoke so highly to this organization. And so the way that the top guides online really did strive to message me in the Zoom chat box, and we did have breakout rooms that I had the opportunity to ask some of my hard-hitting, genuine questions to a real-life, real-time student, that really meant a lot to me. And so I was really inspired and wanted to play that pivotal role for students as they were showing their interest in colleges, no matter how that looked like. So to join the organization as a freshman, our applications go out in the fall. So first year students do have the opportunity to apply. And so we're super grateful that we have, first year freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and outgoing seniors that serve in this role, because they are representative of the student body that's coming into campus.
So here are a couple of our top guides. You can probably see some familiar faces over there to the left. Don't really look too hard at my picture. It's not the best one of myself. However, like Saber mentioned, we have around 50 to 40 top guides each year, and they do come from absolutely everywhere. We always like to say that they represent the entire student body. We have students from different organizations all over campus, different years, different backgrounds, speak different languages. And it's something that we really strive on, is the diversity that we are able to show that Western Kentucky has to those first years, especially when they come to campus for the first time. Some of them may have not gotten a tour. Some of them may have gotten a tour over the summer where we don't really have a lot of students walking around, or it's just on a non-busy day. But again, being able to see all of us line that stage, kind of hear us cheer that Pride song on, they get to, again, see that diversity that we have on campus.
So we've kind of talked about some of these numbers previously, but we wanted to talk about what our training and kind of our day-to-day looks like. So we'll both kind of pop in here to share what our times look like when we served as a top guide, and then now as we serve as the students who kind of organize and lay out that day, what that means to us and what that looks like. So the top guides that we have 42 this year. They are going to serve in various facets throughout that top day, and that they will give what we call our WKU 101 presentation. We'll have about 35 students from a certain college, and our top days are organized by our academic. They come, they'll meet with the student, they'll have a WKU 101 presentation, an opportunity for questions, while their parents or guests that come, they go through a registering for classes 101 session, what to expect session to kind of prepare them for this transition that not only their student, but their family is about to go through. My parents were definitely very appreciative of not just the consideration that WKU catered towards me, but also the people that kind of were sponsoring me to go here. And so even if they don't have a guest, the opportunity that they have to meet people that will be the guests as they go to other things in their life is definitely very special and important. We do have some extensive training processes. They begin kind of in the spring, because kind of towards the end of our spring semester, we really get things going. From spring all the way through the summer, we will orient every single incoming WKU student. So we want to make sure that people feel empowered and prepared to share their why WKU story, but also serve as a really informational and genuine representation of the university, so people feel eager to get involved and comfortable when they step foot here on.
With that, I just kind of want to touch a little bit about kind of preparation that goes into running this organization, especially as top guides. So again, we have those meetings every single week with our orientation leaders throughout the entire spring semester, usually Thursdays at 8 p.m. at DSU. We'll have speakers come from every single organization that we can have during the semester. Housing, ISEC, we've had IT services come and speak to us as well, just so everybody is a little bit, or all our orientation leaders are a little bit familiar with everything that they need to know on campus. Like I said, we are the first kind of faces that they see on campus. And we just want to be sure to be knowledgeable about anything and be able to answer any question that we can, especially from a student perspective, because again, we are students just like them. With that, our day usually starts 24 hours before our first top day. Me, Sabri, along with the other leaders of the organization, will make sure to prep everything for the students. We always give them a little handbag. We just got new bags. If you've been able to see people on tours, they kind of look like our Lululemon bags that you get. So you'll see those at WKU. Make sure you try to get one. They're nylon bags. Use them. But they'll get that with a whole bunch of information about WKU. And then again, we'll be able to talk to them about everything they need to know. And usually at the end of our day of orientation, we have an info fair that consists again of those resources that we have here on campus where students are able to walk around. They get their parking pass, they get their ID picture taken, and also their IDs, and they sit one-on-one with our advisors from the specific academic colleges that are being represented that day, and they will be able to register their classes scheduled the way they want to. So again, it's just kind of like a big day to make sure that they know everything.
So just to close off today, this is a picture that we took at one of our most recent orientations. So all incoming students will get one of the first red towels that they'll start to collect over their time here. So always encouraging them to take them home, because they will definitely gain a plethora throughout their time and involvement here on campus. And so it's sweet that this is one of the first ones that they receive, especially because so many of our top guides that have paved the way for me and Aiden to want to serve will be receiving one of their last alumni towels today. So that's been very special to serve alongside those people. What we really wanted to leave you all with is that we've been very thankful for the opportunity to serve in a role where we understand that when we interact with students, we are representing the entirety of the university. And so we really want to take that seriously and uphold the platform that we've been given to uplift the different opportunities and resources that make WKU so special to us, so that it can be special to them from whatever perspective they choose to do. The last thing that we wanted to touch on was not only do we affect super pivotally the incoming students and their families, but what really surprised me about being involved in this organization was the effect that my fellow top guides would have on me. Before I got involved in college in this way, I did not really know what it meant to look up to peers, and then to serve alongside these people and to have been poured into by so many of the mentors that we have here on campus, to then pour into this incoming class. It means a lot to us. And then the preparation that we've gained and the transferable skills that we found will truly be with us forever. And so whether that looks like us continuing to serve on the Hill after we graduate or in whatever we undertake. We've been very thankful for the platform that WKU and TALK has given us to continue to serve people in this way. So we'll look forward to applications in the fall for new talk guides, bring in several every year. So we're really looking forward to that. And just wanted to thank you for the time to come and present and talk to you all about what talk means to us and what it means to the people here on campus.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any questions?
I got to attend one of the functions in Diddle Arena. President Caboni spoke at it, and it was good. I was impressed with how many parents.
Oh, yeah.
I'm wondering, obviously, targeting the students, but do we do anything? Do we give parents a little baggy or a little?
So, yeah, with our orientation, we have a guest student check-in. So our guests will kind of split them off to their own check-in. They'll also go and receive their own bag with information about WKU and everything. But also, we'll make sure that they go to their own sessions as well, usually what to expect sessions. So kind of, a good session about where students are, or how to, I guess, almost support a student going through college and what to expect from the student with the WKU. So we just want to make sure that not only are the students knowledgeable and everything they need to know about WKU, but the parents are as well. But we also want to have these students have that opportunity to kind of be on their own a little bit while they're here at Western, just because they are going to be essentially on their own when they come here, besides obviously having friends and stuff, but away from their parents for the first time for a lot of them. So being able to have them kind of go on and make their own schedule, because again, they're going to be the ones that are living through that schedule. We want to make sure that they, again, have the opportunity to be independent.
We probably can't thank you guys enough, because I think you're the first face that a lot of the students will have when they come to Western. So, it's like when they walk in my office, my up front girls either make it or break it for me. So you all can make it or break it for us. So, I think you all are making it for us from your great personality. Thank you for what you do and get the spirit out. I appreciate it. I hope you have the best. There's kids to.
If you ever need any WKU jokes, we got them.
Yeah.
We have everything that cherry on top.
Maybe not to fall through an icebreaker, but felt like that would break, during your next 10 minute break. Like getting to know you icebreaker. We're happy to pull one of those out of our pocket. But thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
I want to make one more comment, just and this is in appreciation both to our top guides, program and admissions, but also we look at a specific metric between confirmation, which in this case is orientation, and matriculation in the fall. Call that melt. How many students do we have who show up for an orientation, register for classes, and then who also show up on the first day of school? And our melt has been historically consistent at about 5% students who have come to orientation. We've only lost 5% in the transition to matriculation. And that's better than most colleges and universities that I'm aware of. And I think it's attributable to many facets of WKU. And I got to give a lot of credit to these guys. Thank you so much.
That was very interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know about this.
Thank you. We'll move on to the executive committee. We had several items for action, and the first item concerns athletic contract. And I believe we have Todd Stewart here with us, perhaps to present.
Yes, sir. Thank you. First of all, Cole, thank you for your support last year. Really enjoyed working with you, and certainly Regent Nichols, thank you for the last 6 years, and really appreciate your leadership. In terms of the two contracts that we have here today, they're pretty straightforward. Tyson Kelton, obviously, is our football coach. He's been here last 4 years. And we've been to a bowl game each of the 4 years. So really what this does is just adds a year onto his contract for any year that he wins 7 or more games. It does not change the compensation at all. And then it's Steve Lutz's contract. It's essentially the same financial contract as Rick Stansberry had. I feel really good about him. He's been here for over a month now and it's getting the ground running. We've had a lot of success in men's basketball, but we haven't been to an NCAA tournament since 2013. That has to change. And what I like about Coach Lutz is the last 7 years he's been a coach. Teams he's been with have been to the NCAA tournament, including the last 2 that make it. So feel good about him and the direction that he ultimately will take us in.
Before you go away, there's been some campus conversation about buyouts, and I think we get a representation of this historical perspective to the faculty, Senate Budget Finance Committee. You could talk about that, just a bit about how we come out on those, and we restructuring some buyouts here, adding some of that.
Sure. Yeah, so the most recent situation was Rick Stansberry. It's been reported accurately that he had a $500,000 buyout. Now, what I would point out is if we did not extend his contract and then chose not to renew it, then we still would have had to pay him through June 30th. Because we extended his contract and then put the $500,000 buyout in there, when the contract was terminated in March, then we no longer paid anything towards the contract. We just paid the buyout. So if you do the math, 500,000 buyout minus what we would have paid in March, April, May, and June, it's really a net payout of about $350,000. Still $350,000 more than what I wish we would do, but it's not really a $500,000 loss per se. It's $350,000. But again, I wish it was zero if that didn't happen. But overall, that was obviously a contract that we paid a buyout on, but we've been on the net positive on those over the last few years, and starting really with Bobby Petrino when he left to go to Louisville, we got 1.3 million. Jeff Brom left to go to Purdue, we got 900,000, and when Michelle Hurd went to Cincinnati, we got 250,000. We paid Coach Stansberry the 500 or 350, however you want to look at it. John Pulowski, our baseball coach, we paid a $100,000 buyout there. So we had to pay some buyouts, but we made some changes, but a lot more than what we had to pay, fortunately.
In that same vein, if Tyson Helton got lured away, what's his kind of?
If it happens before December 31st, it'd be $1.1 million we would receive. If it's after December 31st, it would be 900,000. We hope it doesn't happen.
We want to combine these two. Does anyone wish to separate them?
Let's separate them.
Okay. Executive item number 1 is approval of the addendum of athletic employment contract with the head men's football coach as presented to us. I hear a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion. Regent Milliken and a second by Regent Thomas. Any discussion? Not all those in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Second item is approval of the athletic employment contract of the head men's basketball coach.
So moved. Second.
Motion. Yes. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. All right, our next item, in terms of memorandum of understanding with College Heights Foundation, and here and President Boney, would you like to?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Donald, for being here. Since we're reflecting on memories from 6 years ago, I recall one of my first meetings, as I walked in the door, was with the head, the volunteer head of the board of the WKU Foundation. And at that time, the head of the WKU Foundation also served as vice president for philanthropy. The conversation began with, university owes the WKU Foundation this much money. Imagine that. And that was the beginning of my understanding of a challenge the institution faced. And if you think about context, there's an institution up the road that also was challenged with a similar kind of organizational structure. From my perspective, you never want the president of the university to have reporting to the president, an individual who leads a supposedly independent organization, and the other half of their job is dependent upon a reporting structure with the president. It allows an individual in the seat to be able to direct that person to do things like take out debt that we will raise money toward. And it's just not a healthy separation between those decisions that should be made by outside organizations and internal. Secondly, and perhaps more importantly, almost no organization has two foundations supporting endowed funds and philanthropy, and they certainly don't have two organizations with two different investment policies, two different return on investment payout numbers. And so donors were saying over and over to us, I don't understand why this is the return I'm getting from College Heights Foundation. This is the return I'm getting from the WKU Foundation. And why is the payout higher here than it is over here? And they were just confused. And so we had a really good conversation in that first year. Donald was obviously at College Heights Foundation, an important part of that. Randy at the WKU Foundation, John Paul Blair, who was in the seat, Mike Simpson, who was at the College Heights Foundation board, to say, look, we're getting ready to go through a strategic planning process. Can we take a look at this and simplify it, remove the liability exposure to the institution? Yes, we pay back whatever debt that we need to pay, and we've managed to do that too. But lastly, is there a way for us to say to our donors, this is the organization, essentially a single organization that's responsible for investing and managing and distributing the endowed funds. And then on the other hand, for us, that the institution, as required by our accreditation now, is responsible for fundraising. There's some overlap, there's some work that we do together, but what we've done is essentially created a true separation, arm's length relationship between the institution and our foundation that manages our philanthropic resources. It also makes it clear to anyone who follows Donald or me, the relationship is, and clarifies it. And so our College Heights Foundation has a tremendous history, getting ready to celebrate its centennial this year. And they've worked for 6 years to get to this point. And so I'm proud of the work that Donald, the volunteer leadership have done. And I'll also thank Andrea and our outside counsel and their outside counsel. These documents don't come together quickly or sometimes easily. And it's been a 12 pages, a couple of years in the making. And when you go back to it, really about 6 years. So this is an important celebratory day for all of us to hopefully get across the finish line. What better day to do that than commencement day?
That's a great summary. You all have a red towel in front of you all. Some of you were at the scholarship celebration, and George and CJ did a wonderful job. We continue to hear great comments from that. So thank you for speaking that night. But we unveiled these towels that night. So on July 17th this year, we will celebrate our 100th anniversary of the College Heights Foundation. Just a brief history. Back in 1923, a faculty member, Lila Boone, gave $100 to Dr. Henry Hardin Cherry and said, I want to help deserving students in need get an education. Dr. Cherry was unsure about what to do with that. He pulled some citizens together, and that was the creation of the 12-member board that created the College Heights Foundation. Historically, Foundation has done a number of things through the years, everything from running the bookstore to the laundromat to constructing buildings on campus, but primarily over about the past 3 decades, that's focused on scholarships. The College Heights Foundation administers about 1,500 individual scholarship funds that all kind of tell their own unique story. The WKU Foundation was created in 1993, primarily focused on programmatic endowments, capital projects, and professorships. And as President Caboni mentioned, there's got to be some confusion a little bit on different spending policies, different investment policies. What if I want to do both? How do I get here? And so when he came in and created a strategic plan, really challenged the foundation boards to say, how do we simplify the giving process? How do we eliminate donor confusion? And how do we maximize the overall impact of the institution? Those boards took that to heart, had conversations over the past few years. I want to thank Regent Bale, who was an ex officio member of the WKU Foundation Board. Melissa Dennison was a previous member of the College Heights Foundation Board. As we wrestled through that to say, what is the most optimum organizational structure to lead us for the next century? So over the past few years, we've aligned our policies and procedures. We've streamlined our operations, really created a lot of efficiencies. And now in 23, we're taking the next step of consolidating the assets of those 2 foundations so we can create the true economies of scale moving forward. So as President mentioned, there are a lot of reasons that went into this, but overall it's going to save money for the foundation, and we're also going to provide more impact back to the institution. This MOU last was drafted in 2017. Every about 5 years, we'll look at it anyway. So when that came due in 22 and we were close to the consolidation point, we said, let's just push it off to 2023. So as you go through it, this is representative of AGB, which is the Association of Governing Boards. They have an illustrative memorandum of understanding between the foundation and the institutions. A lot of the language in here you'll see is reflective of that. And then some of it are things, again, that we've added just to be able to further clarify the separation of the independence foundation and the institution, to draw distinct lines between philanthropy and alumni engagement and the foundation. And most importantly, think about the services the foundation gets from the institution and vice versa in return, and explicitly spell those out in this MOU. So we feel like it's a document that will lead us going forward. As it says in here, we'll review it occasionally if things come up, but it's overall our guiding principle between the foundation and the institution. And happy to answer any questions that you all may have from the foundation side and of course, the president from the university side.
I apologize for the late notice for you all. We were hoping to have it done last week, but we had a couple of smaller details that we had to iron out, and we at least got to the finish line. Thank you for your forbearance.
I will just say on that, I don't want you to feel like this is thrown in at the last minute. We've been cooking this in a crock pot for about 4 or 5 years now, and it just seems like now it's got thrown in the microwave here at the end. But it has been something that we've been talking about for 6 or 7 months just to get the nuances correct in the document.
I'll add very quickly. I appreciate the expediency which questions were answered. Once we got the document that made the initial offer. University, Andrew called me very quickly when I had questions, and I think every question that we had related to this was answered quite sufficiently and thoroughly. So I appreciate that response time, given the quick turnaround for all of us. So I appreciate that. I do believe every region, please correct me if I'm wrong, that is here today was a scholarship celebration dinner. And that is a testament to you voice priorities by attendance sometimes. I think that shows demonstration where some of the priorities lay. If I'm wrong, please don't correct me.
And enjoy an extra red towel if you were there. But to that point, Regent Brinkley, I know we often talk about the foundation and the endowment, which is about $235 million now, give or take. Market's down a little bit today, but about $235 million. But the most important thing is not the number of the endowments, lives that are being impacted by all those endowed funds. So thank you for many of you around the table that have your own endowed funds or not endowed funds that support the institution.
I think the process of getting here today with this reflects the same process that created the math model and the budget model where we are going to take diversity and be good at fiduciary and everything that we do. And I really appreciate it does help protect us as a board, president, and people that care about Western. Not that shenanigans can't still happen. I'm sure there might be ways, but it's much less likely with this model. So, thank you, Donald. Helping steer this through for a long period of time. With that, I will entertain a motion for approval of executive item 3, memorandum of understanding is presented to us. So moved. Motion, second. Vote, right. Approval. Executive item 3. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Don. In that same vein, I'm going to take a minute or two, President Tony and I talk about this and looking back over the last year and what's happened, and the fact that sometimes we forget to see forest for the trees, but I think the thing I'm most proud about when we talk about other universities who we compete with and other, we can honestly look at it and say this university is providing tremendous value. And as regents and hopefully as faculty members and staff, we can go out into the world and stand on a podium if we have to and scream to the world by Western Kentucky University. It's a great place for students to come, no matter their age. So we have passed out for everyone our academic highlights for this past year. And I won't read the whole thing, but student success, of course, is number one. And as George pointed out, you know, what's been done here with retention is pretty amazing. And I guess we see part of that with our TOPS program, filters down throughout the university. The learning centers, the living learning communities definitely have had an impact. We've seen that in retention rates now that anyone would be proud of. 91% of first year students return in spring. And in our underrepresented minority students, 91%. That's 10% higher than just 5 or 6 years ago. We're going to graduate over 2,800 people tonight. That's something we can all celebrate with various degrees being granted. The innovation that's going on our campus is widespread. It's listed here, some of the things that we're doing. Read these all in our innovation campus where we had our meeting 6 weeks ago. And we're just getting started there, and the potential there and how it affects not only our campus, but all the communities around us. I believe they have established an innovation campus in either Elizabethtown or Owensboro.
Elizabethtown is the Coke.
Yeah, the old Coke factory.
What does it stand for?
What does Coke-
COKE. It's an initialism that stands for something, but that was just opened.
Well,
this
hopefully
week.
it's not Coke, but.
Yeah.
COKE, creating opportunities, knowledge, and so.
Yeah. And I believe there will be more. So access and opportunity, or did we see that last fall with that program, which gets off the ground this fall? 73 students are enrolled. We always have 100 students in junior and senior years. After it's up and running for 2 years, and I would think many of those students will end up on campus down here, but it really addresses access to affordability. Those students in their last 2 years of high school can earn up to 30 hours of college credit. And, that's no small feat. The Opportunity Fund, $50 million sounds like a lot of money at the invocation of President Cavoni 6 years ago. Blew past that pretty quickly, up to 85 million now, and the goal being 100. It's a question that we will meet that sooner rather than late. University scholarships totaling more than $56 million, affecting approximately 10,000 students. Donald, thank you for all your efforts in that arena. And thanks to all the individuals that are providing these scholarship funds in one manner or another. I've already talked about the Innovation Campus and what bingo size going out there. And really, no kidding what they're doing. If they can, and it sounds like they're producing data that are meaningful in the real life. Believe me, long-term care is real life today. The baby boomers haven't arrived yet. They're trickling in. But, any program that shows that they can improve life and care in that population, it's exciting that Western Kentucky University is producing something. Those people at the Innovation Campus will find a way to make that spread, sounds like across the world. Amazing. Involving companies, that's one of the things that universities really are being charged to do now. You got to have partnerships. You got to partner with people and companies that are in your community, and we're doing that, and we'll do a lot more of that. Hands-on applied research in bingo size demonstrated that, and there are a lot of others. I know our engineering students do a lot of that, hands-on research. We'll continue to be a real leader in that respect. Your R1 universities, and I went to one, I can attest to it. Students don't get hands-on research experience like they do at Western Kentucky University. And we need to make that more widely known and demonstrate to people how important that is. And then our diversity, equity, and inclusion work, I think has been remarkable, enough so that the American Association of State Colleges and Universities gave us an Excellence in Innovation Award in that arena. I brought with me today, I don't know how many of us have seen, this is a nice recent publication on Jonesville. It's really good. Anybody that goes through that, it's going to have greater understanding and appreciation for diversity, equity, and inclusion. So all of these things in the Monday Hall presentation where George spoke at that, and he got upstage that day. George, a great speaker, but then Mrs. Monday, she blew it away. But one of the sheets. I think there's more things that can be done and will be done. So taking a few minutes to pause and reflect on this past year and what we've done for our time in this meeting. And with that, I'll ask President Cavoni. I know he's ready to say something as well, and anybody else that wants to speak up. It's a big university. We all try to participate in different ways, different venues, and that's important, and as Regents, we all need to show up whenever and how often we can. People do notice.
Regent Bell, thank you for the recap. Certainly not exhaustive, but important for lots to celebrate. And today, of all days, to celebrate. Commencement is the most important day of the year for our institution. It's the reason why we do everything we do each other day of the year. And so as we celebrate our graduates, say thank you for a remarkable year. And it's going to be a wonderful celebration. So if our reception starts, Beth, at 5 o'clock, is that correct? 4:45, somewhere in there. I'm from New Orleans. You're always 15 minutes late. I want to just say a few things in advance of tonight and our next gathering. First of all, I will reiterate what Susan said, that if you have a few moments as you're making your way to the reception at the top of the hill, take a detour. Go look at what's happening behind Van Meter Hall, behind Cherry Hall, as you walk up from the Commons, and what used to be Colonnade Drive is now Colonnade Way, and what eventually will become Garrett Plaza. We have a spectacular campus, but this transformation at the top of the hill really allows us to return to President Cherry's initial vision of an oval academical village that crowned the top of the hill. And we removed Garrett. And what we've created is a space for our community, again, to gather. But this is gathering outside. So there are spaces that you'll see, nooks and crannies. And as the flowers grow, the trees grow, it's going to be, again, a continued differentiator for us in the marketplace. Our hill is special, but returning to the initial vision is really a remarkable opportunity. So thank you for your approval of leadership on that. Number two, we do have a spectacular hill, but it's particularly beautiful around commencement. And that's partially because of the spring, but more importantly, because our facility services works tirelessly for the weeks leading up to tomorrow and today to put things in place. And so to Brian and the entire team, thank you for the mulching, the planting of flowers, the moving of old flowers, the timing of the lawn mowing to make sure the grass is perfect for today and tomorrow. It just really is an incredible effort that requires months of planning. And so I'm thankful that we all get to enjoy the spectacular landscape tomorrow and today. And then lastly, this is looking toward our next meeting. I look at Regent Brinkley, who's involved in public radio, public media. Some of you may have noticed both within the Commonwealth and outside of the Commonwealth, there have been some conversations around university public radio stations or public media and the relationship between an institution and particularly the news gathering portions of those organizations. I will take a step back. Some of you may recall as Vice Chancellor for Public Affairs at the University of Kansas, I was responsible for and public media reported to me. A particularly interesting situation because so did the PR wing of the university. And what I made clear from my first day there was that the news service and the news gathering organization of public media has a wall between the institution and the PR arm. And that goes for the folks who actually do public relations, but it goes up the chain. And so there, and I reiterated that when I came here, the Regent Brinkley and public media reports here to the president. And what I've said is that we will not intervene public affairs side of the house, any leadership, or from the president in any news gathering activities of public media. We must have full objectivity and no interference, and I'm committed to that. So what we will bring to you, Regent Brinkley and I, is a policy that reiterates that formally at the committee meetings in June. But given the conversation nationally in the Commonwealth, I just wanted to make that explicit and clear to everyone that our NPR station is a remarkable asset for this institution. And the news gathering portion of it is so important to our region. They must have complete and total autonomy to ask questions, anyone they want to ask, and we're providing that to them. So, Regent Brinkley, if you'd like to add anything to that.
The news around the country, there have been some instances, particularly at university licensees, where they're given the reporting seems to be some undue influence. It doesn't take a lot of effort to find some of these stories. Some are maybe in our own backyard. But what I have been pleased with, time that I've been in this position, is that both presidents have willfully adopted this firewall. We did not initially think that it would be necessary for the board to adopt it as well. But seeing that that's a trend and that this university has always served as a beacon for the First Amendment and under the School of Media, strong message that we give our student journalists, we can reinforce that the acceptance adoption of this editorial integrity policy, which we will outline and provide. I appreciate it's more than just a gesture. It means a lot, and to hear it also reinforced for the record is something that really is a testament to the value that students get in knowing that there is no blurred line here. And I want to make sure that everybody understands. So I appreciate this. Timing sometimes facilitates these things, and unfortunately, this is one of those instances. But we appreciate it. We'll have that information and look forward to proceeding.
Very good. Any comments? If you'll indulge me just a minute on this, and it does speak to the freedom of the press, and it speaks somewhat to academic freedom. And probably the most famous statement in all higher education with regard to that was made in the late 1800s at the University of Wisconsin. And I won't remember exactly the whole thing, but it basically said the university will forever encourage the continual and fearless sifting and winnowing by alone which the truth may be found. And that's what we want. Sifting and winnowing. Okay. Any other comments or business to be had there? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I move we go into closed session as provided by KRS 61.810, subsection 1, purpose of discussing pending litigation against or on behalf of the university.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.